Kia ora, everyone, and thank you very much to the ICOMOS SDGs Working Group for the invite to take part in this session for April the 18th. I'm Stacey Vallis, and it's just after midnight here in New Zealand, so I'm very sorry not to be able to join you all online, but no doubt it's been a really great session so far. Now, for those who I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm a lecturer at the School of Future Environments at Auckland University of Technology in New Zealand. I completed my PhD exploring the heritage conservation and seismic retrofit of New Zealand's vulnerable unreinforced masonry buildings back in 2020, following a significant earthquake sequence that took place between 2010 to 2011. I'd worked in professional practice in Sydney, Australia during the destructive bushfires of 2019 to 2020, followed by the COVID-19 pandemic, when I relocated to Sweden to take up a postdoc fellowship in digital futures. Now, these experiences overall highlighted the vulnerability as well as the resilience of our cultural heritage and the shared stories that unite our communities during times of crisis. Currently, I serve as the president of ICOMOS Aotearoa New Zealand, where we continue to confront the challenges posed by natural hazards and climate change to our unique cultural heritage sites. My research is based at the Systems and Communities Research Centre at AUT, where I work within a really wonderful team, including colleagues coming from architecture, built environment engineering, human-computer interaction, and plant ecologies. Our work addresses a number of the Sustainable Development Goals, and I've highlighted SDGs 6, 11, and 13 on this slide, relating to our growing work on flood risk in our urban centres. But that's enough about me, as today I'm excited to talk to you about how New Zealand responds to natural hazards that threaten our cultural heritage. Starting off with multiple natural hazards that have shaped our cities and towns for many years, followed by a case study of our work with masonry buildings as one earthquake vulnerable heritage typology that lines our national streetscapes using drone and photogrammetry technologies, and that informed a more recent project using 3D scanning and virtual reality to document a landscape at risk from flooding. And lastly, rounding off with our ongoing work using survey and network analysis to examine perceptions of flood risk and resilience in our local neighbourhoods. Now, Aotearoa, New Zealand has been shaped by a history of natural hazards for a long time, including flooding, fire, volcanoes, earthquakes, to name a few. So with this timeline in mind, we're interested in exploring how our urban neighborhoods respond to these risks. Earthquakes have been in the spotlight for a long time, but in recent years in New Zealand and globally, flooding has become more frequent and intense due to climate change. Recently, the Auckland anniversary weekend floods and Cyclone Gabrielle were significant events that strongly shaped public perceptions of flood risk that I'll soon talk to you more about. But this means that our streets represent timelines of change and adaptation in response to many different natural hazards. So going back a few years, some of you may recall the Canterbury earthquake sequence that took place between 2010 to 2011 in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand. 185 people lost their lives, and the earthquakes highlighted the vulnerability and public safety risk posed by the 19th and early 20th century unreinforced masonry buildings that feature in the streets of Christchurch, but also across many towns and centres and urban centres in New Zealand. Christchurch Cathedral elicited a national-scale response to heritage at risk, especially masonry buildings. So one of these towns that we later worked with is called Oamaru and is located in the South Island of New Zealand. Now, you may know of Oamaru as home to the world's smallest penguin, the little blue penguin, but that's not the point of my talk today. Back in the 19th century, Oamaru was a hub of activity, and its wealth was reflected in its streets, featuring neoclassical limestone buildings that resembled historic European streets. So today the town features one of New Zealand's most recognizable heritage precincts that has faced some vulnerability. A few years back, I worked with a team of structural engineers to document groups of these historic buildings. We used a combination of archival research and fieldwork, including walking inspection, drone footage, and photography, to produce 3D photogrammetry models. Using drone photos and footage allowed us to rapidly capture a vast scope of information relating to the building's distinctive architectural features, some high above ground level, as well as the seismic retrofits that had taken place on the buildings previously, but all gathered within a single fieldwork session, and can now serve as an archival resource for future reference. So you could say the penguins can sleep at night. But now I'll take you to another part of the country, set across a dramatic coastal landscape prone to flooding in West Auckland in the North Island of New Zealand, and featuring an example of smaller scale local cultural heritage at risk from the impacts of climate change, where an understated timber-framed camping hut played host to generations of school kids since the 1950s. As we know, not all heritage is as grandiose as marble buildings, but instead holds significance for local groups. So at the start of this talk, I'd mentioned that flooding is becoming more frequent and intense in New Zealand, and this site is very much at risk. So my master's student, Devash, identified this site and was keen to do something to help. The site was somewhat difficult to get to, and its use as a campsite is prohibited due to the flood risk. But Devash came up with a solution. He wanted to record the tangible and intangible heritage values of this site for residents who may have spent their formative years enjoying this environment. So now, no matter where in the world you might be watching this from, you don't need an expensive VR headset or an expensive plane ticket. If you can grab a smartphone and scan the QR code on screen, you can also see and experience the environment that locals will have enjoyed for decades. So, as so. So while Devash combined 3D scanning, photogrammetry models, and virtual reality, the only equipment that he needed for on-site recording was his smartphone. Then, using VR allowed real-time engagement with the site's spatial qualities that can, in turn, help inform individuals and groups in future site management discussions. So, as this was a year-long project that has now wrapped, we are now developing further research to explore the potential of emerging digital technologies for storytelling and to help drive more culture-based climate action in this way. Now, emergency response to natural hazards isn't just physical, and public perceptions of flood risk are amongst some of the most important factors in protecting cultural heritage. A bit closer to home, a suburb called New Lynn, where I grew up, features the remains of a significant brick and ceramics manufacturing hub in Auckland. New Lynn was also one of the most severely affected suburbs during the Auckland Anniversary weekend floods in 2023. So we wanted to understand why was this the case. The way we did this was to push survey invitations into mailboxes of local residents to ask about their perceptions of flood risk in the local neighborhood. We used network analysis to group survey respondents into clusters to understand how people think about flood risk as well as flood resilience. And we found that people's thinking fell into fairly predictable clusters. We found that factors such as perceived safety from flooding, rainfall worry, providing or receiving support from neighbors during flooding events, and trust in local stakeholders to manage flooding were amongst the most significant factors associated with perceived neighborhood flood resilience. Interestingly, factors such as gender and age were not significant. So we now aim to draw on these risk perception clusters to inform resilient investment for our neighborhoods and to help reduce the gap between risk perception and action. So to conclude, a few takeaways for you here are that we are facing ongoing prevalent risk from multiple natural hazards and climate change. But we have some invaluable tools in our toolbox, such as evolving emerging digital technologies to help document the characteristics of cultural heritage sites and to help inform future responses. And lastly, understanding the drivers for public perception and decision-making is important to address misperceptions and potential barriers to resilient action. So at that, thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to reach out with any queries. Thanks. Kia ora.
Where the people in the neighborhood, because it is a very small mosque, so it was transferred back into became a building with place to pray in. I'm working at the moment in the restoration of the Zaytuna Mosque in Old City of Tunisia. And this is one of the challenges that I really appreciate. I thank God that I have this opportunity to do. And the restoration of Zaytuna is a challenge. This is a monument, historical monument that has several historical layers above it. Let me show you a photo of the building. Can you see the screen, my screen, or?
We can see the pictures of the dome, the mosque.
But not the
Okay,
Zaytuna.
okay,
Not the
not the
Zaytuna.
Zaytuna.
not the Zaytuna, okay. So as you see, we had the interference was that we keep everything that is authentic and we have documentation on it. But in the places that we don't have any documentation or they are new, so we do, this was added before this restoration project. This is one of the doors that is authentic, but the other ones that they are new, but they are inspired from the traditional old doors of the building. Now, this is a new dome. The cover of the soup was very new, so we were able to add a new dome to it instead of opening all of it. Now you see now the facade of Al Zaytuna. We had added an interpretation center to the alley that is linked directly to the mosque, where now you can see the entrance of the mosque from here. And we had used a cover to help the merchants in here be protected from the sun and also protect the facade of the interpretation center because it is closed with glass. We have an open gallery outside the building, and here we had used the major or the reservoir that is closed, was closed completely, and we use it for children as a place to learn how their ancestors used water and used hydraulic facilities. And we also proposed a visit to these areas. Now we have the entrance of the main entrance of the mosque. All the interference are modern, and they are talking about the actual time of that we do the restoration. See the entrance, and this is the interpretation center where we show these elements that we found inside the mosque. We have interactive screens where people can choose what kind of element they want to understand. We do have all the information about the columns, the history of the building, the domes, the building. Here we had made a visit to the reservoir that exist under the courtyard of the Zaytuna Mosque. And we make it a place to show the history of the mosque itself. So the mosque will keep its function. It will be a place for prayer, but at the same time, we have places that can show the history of the building itself. And they are all a modern intervention. This is all underfloor. These are nobody really see it before, and you cannot see it. We did open it for a visit because it lost its function. Nobody used this reservoir anymore, and water reservoir, and so we make it a place for a visit, and hopefully we will be able to execute all this work on site. Of course, there's intervention. You see, the intervention is very minimal in these places, so people doesn't lose their contact. I mean, not visually, not with their memory with the place. At the same time, the restoration and how we can keep all this building alive again and solve all its structural problems, solve its pathology, everything that is related to give it more time to shine as a place of religion. And of course, the Zaytuna Mosque was the first university in the Moroccan in the Maghreb, in the West. You see inside the hall. These are old chandelier. We kept them, but we give them another distribution. And we used a modern light inside the mosque that give the inspiration of stars, small stars that are illuminating and give a sense of, warm, and at the same time it's suitable for praying. And we don't forget to show the columns, the structure itself of the building. Of course, we don't have anything that is shown from electricity wires or ACs or technical issues. They are either under the floor or above the ceiling. We created a ceiling that is technical and technical floor. I'm gonna stop in here because it's a long story, and thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rajab. It was really enjoyable presentation to see how you have done the work, actual work, I mean, designing after the disaster. So I would like to ask you to stay here because we will have the Q&A session at the end. And before, like, without of losing much more time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Miss Geraldine Ferreira Ojidaflon. And if I'm pronouncing your surname, I'm so sorry. Um, Miss Geraldine is the former conservation assistant at the National Institute of Anthropology and History of Osaka office. And yes, Miss Geraldine, please go ahead with your presentation, and we cannot wait to hear your experience. We cannot hear you, I think. No, sorry. No. There's still, I can just read your lips, but mute. Okay. Still no. Maybe change the settings of your microphone and speaker to the system. It might help on the down bar, left hand. No. Uh, okay. No. Do you have phone? Do you have Zoom on your phone? If you have Zoom on your phone, maybe you can connect it with there and then.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Perfect. Thank
Perfect.
you.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries.
Uh, so I'm gonna do the projection of the share. It's gonna be this one. Okay, so
Yeah. I just need to ask you, please keep in mind the time. We are running a
yeah,
little bit, late. Thank you.
no worries. I'll keep it short and sweet. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about Oaxaca, Mexico, living heritage, how indigenous communities, earthquakes, how everything collides. We have a very complex geographic region in Oaxaca, which is the southern part of the state, southern part of the country, and we have two tectonic plates that are interacting. We have the North American plate on the upper part, and then the Cocos plate on the southern part, which turns it into a very high seismic region, especially the south of the country. But we also have two mountain systems colliding also just in this state, which makes the terrain way more difficult.
Sorry, Gerald.
We have
Sorry. Just to note that we don't have the presentation mode and the slides are not moving if you are talking. Just sorry.
sorry, I thought it was
I think you're
sharing.
supposed to share the other screen. I think you shared this
Yeah.
one.
There we
Yeah,
go.
the
Are
presentation.
you looking at it? Okay,
Yes.
so this is the North American
Yeah.
plates and the Cocos plate, and on the other map we have the two mountain systems colliding in this one state. Are the slides changing now?
Yes, they are.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Perfect. So the demographic context is also very important because we have over 30% of the population in this state speaks an indigenous language. We have at least 16 recognized ethno-linguistic groups. And with that, we also have above 75% of the community being Catholic. So all the heritage that we're gonna have, it's gonna mainly be protected by indigenous communities, but also at the same time we have this wave of Catholicism influencing our heritage over here in Mexico, not just in this state. It's very important to talk about INA, which is the National Institute of Anthropology and History. This institute is the one that regulates all the heritage all over Mexico. We have the headquarters in Mexico City, but we have small offices in every single state. We're 32 states in the country, so we have a big impact. INA was founded in 1939, and this is the main institution in charge of protection, broadcasting, research, and conservation of cultural heritage. Sorry. In 1972, there was a law that was produced for all the heritage made before the 1900s belongs to all Mexicans because it's part of our identity, meaning that the state has to regulate through this institution. What I'm going to be talking mainly about today is the earthquakes that we had in 2017. It hit most of the lower part of the country, impacting 11 states. We had one in September 7th of 8.2 in the scale of Richter. And then we had another one just like a few days later, a couple of weeks later, September 19th, that it was 7.1. So whatever didn't get affected by the first earthquake got hit by the second one, unfortunately. And we had a lot of around 2,000, over 2,000 buildings were impacted by this, not just in Oaxaca, but all over the country. And so far we have reported, 2023, there was a 70% progress of recovery. The challenges that we have been facing, mainly in Oaxaca, and why I wanted to talk about specifically Oaxaca, is because we have, as we can see in the picture, the upper picture, we have difficulties of terrain, as I was mentioning before. We have so many different ecosystems. We have from tropical forests, temperate woodlands to coastal environments. So sometimes it's hard to access these places. And with that, also resources become very difficult to manage and to ask for, because people think that thinking distance is like a steady distance that doesn't have this kind of difficulties, mainly from access, but also data organization. When we had brigades, the main issues is that we had people from all over the country trying to come here and help, but they work in museums or they work in different contexts that is not necessarily emergency, and the collection of data wasn't necessarily all the information that we needed to do proper budgeting and then ask for resources. And at the same time, when we were going to these communities to do the damage assessment and collecting all this data, we had communities that were expecting way much more than we could offer, unfortunately. So with all of this, what we have done in the past years, we had another earthquake in 2018, and we had the last one that was a big one in 2020. So with that, we had implemented some optimization in data collection. We created a new registry forms to collect all this data and to make it easier, not just for personnel that are trained, but for just like everyone that was collecting the data, but also for the people that were gathering that data and then processing it. The brigades organization, we also created some specific things about routings, having a base point where we had access to Wi-Fi so that they could communicate with another team here in Oaxaca. That really helped out with getting all the information that was needed. Damaging reporting, we opened a WhatsApp channel and an email so that we could get all the reports from communities that were claiming they had damages through those earthquakes, and the information of all the information was needed, and we now have like a proper way of doing it so that when we have to do the following steps, we don't miss any of the information, because that's what's happening all along. And so my final thoughts are mainly community based decisions with specialists and financiers is very important whenever we're talking about conservation, especially with living heritage. We're talking about places that take up not just religious practices, but also we have community practices in these spaces. We're talking about, as a country, we're fairly like 90% Catholic. So with this, we need to understand how our heritage, although we might not be religious or we might be religious, is still representing us as Mexicans, or as how we describe it most of the times. Also, when we separate restoration from repair, we fully understand the object and not just how we can fix the damage that was done by an earthquake, because we used to have insurance over here. So it was hard to make them understand why it was so expensive, because we were not doing a repair, we were doing restoration, meaning we need to dig a little bit deeper. And also with that, falling into the next point, which is geography and access. As I was saying before, some of these places, we are within the same state and we have to travel like 16 hours to get to these places. And just to get to those places, then to exit those places is a whole different thing. And that with the different climates that we have, whenever we have landslides, we cannot access those places and so on. And lastly, we need consent optimization, because if we don't keep on using the tools that are accessible to us, but also keep on understanding how some technologies might not be useful because we don't have access to Wi-Fi, or we don't have access to charging phones, or all this kind of technology that might be helpful, even drones and so on. But if we cannot download this information, if we cannot process it, and if we cannot access it later, then it's not really that useful for that moment. And that would be all. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you so much, Geraldine. It was really nice to hear. And of course, I understand the issues with the long distance and also the insurance. It's one of those small problems that makes a huge mess when you are trying to deal with it. Okay, so our last guest speaker is Mr. Shervin Gudarzi from Iran, who shares their experience of heritage conservation during the most recent war in Iran. Mr. Gudarzi is a senior expert in cultural heritage, research associate at the Center for Historic Fabric Studies in Islamic Azad University. So, as some of you might know, because of the internet blockage in Iran, they have kindly sent their video to us, and I'm going to present it for you now, and he will give a short introduction at the beginning of himself. So, yeah. Please, if the sound or video had any problem, please let me know.
Research fellow at the Center for Historic Fabric Studies of the Azad Islamic University. First, I would like to thank ICOMOS for providing me with the opportunity to participate in this meeting. I also apologize in advance for not being able to attend this meeting online and for having to present my remarks in the form of a video. As my time is limited, in this presentation, I will provide you with an overview of the measures and the plans of the Iranian Ministry of Cultural Heritage, Tourism and Handicrafts regarding the historical sites damaged during this war. And then I will focus on some of the emergency measures taken and future plans and future needs. And I will concentrate only on 3 war-related sites that have suffered the most damage during this war. As you see, over 1 million historical buildings have been identified in Iran. 35,000 of them have been inscribed on the national inventory. There are more than 1,000 museums in Iran, and half of them belongs to the Iranian Ministry of Cultural Heritage. Up to 2025, 28 sites have been inscribed on the World Heritage List of UNESCO. The war began on 28th of February and ended in the 8th of April 2026. 132 cultural properties have been directly or indirectly damaged by the airstrikes during the war. Here you can see the number of damaged properties in each province. The most of them are located in Tehran. Now in this slide you can see the types of damaged properties: 111 buildings mostly in Tehran, 9 buildings belonging to the War Heritage in Khuzestan province, 15 museums and the National Railway System, which has been also inscribed on the World Heritage List. As you see, out of 132 structures, 3 properties have been severely damaged by the airstrikes, which are World Heritage sites. In this table, for each of the 3 properties, you can see their identification, inscription details, incident analysis, and the damage origin. For example, is it from a blast wave, a secondary fire, debris, shrapnel, or sonic wave? Or where is the exact location of the damage? Is it in the property or in the buffer zone? Table 5 is shown in 2 slides, which is about emergency needs and initial protective measures for these sites. For example, for Gulistan Palace, roof covering of openings, specialized conservation of decorations and attachments are among the emergency needs. And what have been done so far, you can see the initial protective measures: covering of damaged roof tiles, cover openings, conservation actions, utility actions. In the rest of the table 5, you can see the same needs and primary actions for Meydan Imam or the Imam Square. For example, installing standard safe scaffolds as emergency needs, or installing water barriers throughout the area as a primary protective measure. Now we focus on Gulistan Palace. The blue line shows the buffer zone, the red line, the property. The 2 airstrikes are within the buffer zone, as you can see. The distance of the impact points are from 50 to 10 meters to the property. The police station was one of the oldest ones in the old fabric of Tehran and was inscribed on the national inventory. From this angle, you see the distance of the second impact point, which is the judiciary building dedicated to governmental employees. The distance is less than 15 meters. In the 4 following slides, you can see photos from the garden, the mirror hall, and the royal court to receive the public audience by the Shah, debris of mirrors and plaster and footworks, administrative sections, and ticket services. Here are some of the primary emergency measures taken in Gulistan Palace. For example, documentation through photography and video recordings, pathology and preparing the preliminary reports, conducting protective measures, including cleaning the garden, especially discarded glass pieces, changing some of the electrical machines and their immunization, covering the site walls and fences with canvas to prevent the public view and access. This photo shows the impact point, which is behind the Imam Square. This slide shows the locations of impact point, Imam Square, and Chelstone Palace. The distance between the impact point with Imam Square is about 350 meters. Ali Qaboos building in Imam Square has been severely damaged. You can see the damages including the broken doors and windows, holes in the ceiling, and wall cracks. You know, the blue shield banner has been laid on the roof of the Ali Qaboos building before the war. Now in this slide, you can see some of the emergency measures taken for Ali Qaboos building right after the strike. Documentation, installing water barriers throughout the area, including canvas or plastic coverings, restricting public access to the damaged zones, fire safety measures, studying the use of nanomaterials to increase fire resistance of wooden elements, using adhesive tapes on glasses of the windows and doors, removal of debris, stabilization of the weak points. Now the third and the last case study, Chelstone Palace. As you can see in the picture, there is a blue shield banner in the garden of the palace laid down before the war. This slide shows the locations of impact point and Chelstone Palace. The distance between the impact point with Chelstone is less than 100 meters. Please see the short dark blue arrow in the images. In the 2 following slides, you can see the damages incurred into the main hall of the palace, the plasterworks, tiles, mughalnas, walls, and windows. And you see this table shows the assessment of damages incurred into the Chelstone Palace and many other information, such as date of inscription, date of airstrike, level of destruction, urgent needs, and primary measures done for the site. In the bottom of the table, you can see the measures done for removal of the danger, preparation of the restoration plan, estimation of cost of preparation of plan, temporary coverings, and protective plaster works as the measures done for it. This slide shows some of the primary measures, such as pasting adhesive tapes on the glosses and covering up places with nylon sheets. Here they are stabilizing the wooden door of the main gate to the garden as a preventive measure. After the airstrike, a team of university professors from the Isfahan Art University conducted a surface search for small fragments of decorative objects scattered across the porch. As you know, fisheye technology is used for ultra-wide photography as a documentation tool. While it offers certain advantages, it also has some drawbacks, which I will discuss in the next slide. Here I provided some of the pros and cons of fisheye photography. As for pros, this technology is suitable for small spaces, faster than DSLR cameras, faster rendering using two sensors simultaneously, financially cheaper equipment, and it's not good for macro photography, such as taking accurate photos of wall cracks. In my last slide, I will show you some of the primary emergency measures done for Chelsea Palace, for example, preparation of restoration plan, damage assessment and plan preparation, documentary photos and video recordings, using fisheye technology for ultra-wide photos, estimation of the cost of preparation of plans, using adhesive tapes on glass of windows and doors, removal of debris, covering of all doors and windows with nylon sheets, monitoring, etc. Thank you for having me in this discussion panel, and thank you for your patience. I would also to thank my friend Farmaz Elahi for producing this video. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Okay, that was the presentation, which I wish we could have Mr. Sherwin with us here today. But anyway, so we came to the end of the speaking presentations, and now it is the time for having the panel discussion and QAs. Let me see whether we have any questions posted here. Okay, I don't see any questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to post it either on the chat box or and maybe if you want, you can also open your mic, ask it yourselves, and yes.
There are some comments from us on the chat.
Okay, so I see one comment, yes, about the last presentation. The damaging of Iranian heritage once again underscored the importance of the fact that the 1954 HU Convention offers insufficient protection in contemporary armed conflicts. I have also called attention to this on behalf of EcoFort Europe. Cooperations between ICOMOS, ICOM, and Blue Shirt is truly necessary in this regard. Yes, I agree very much with this.
I think we all agree on that.
I think, yeah, the 1950, what is, I mean, what is quite clear is that the 1954 HU Convention has fallen short for some of the countries, especially during the war and conflict areas, including Syria and also other countries. If there is no questions for now, I will ask, I have prepared few questions and I would like to ask this from all our speakers who are present here. So last night I was thinking about what we can do really after the disaster, after a disaster happens, and how we can really consider heritage, because heritage is at the times of disaster a luxurious thing, a luxurious concept that we might not be able to think about it when there are lots of things happening, and more importantly, the lives of people. And we know all about authenticity and integrity as the subjects that they are important when we are reconstructing the heritage or when we are trying to preserve them. My question is that what kind of measurements or what kind of approach have our different speakers been involved during these reconstructions after the disasters, how they have included this matter of authenticity, these different criterias that we talk about them in the heritage discussions, in their application, whether the architectural design or through the community rebuilding the whole either religious buildings or parts of the urban and village areas. Yes. If anyone is interested to answer this question, please go on. Otherwise, yes.
It's a very democratic panel, so please take the mic and go ahead.
So for us, mainly because we do have legislation. I mean, also ours is very insufficient to current times because it's from 1972. But we have a very kind of specific legislation when it comes to conservation and what constitute as just using traditional materials. We have to research a little bit for this earthquakes specifically from 2017. We had to go into traditional construction to be able to do, we do adobe over here, which is this kind of mud and hay and some bricks. And we had to go into traditional traditional ways of making this bricks, but also for our conservation over here in Mexico is very much regulated by the state. I come from a private school, but we are regulated by the Vienna letters from the Italian kind of school. That's how we do art conservation. So we have a lot of strict regulations over here in terms of what we can and cannot do, and all the heritage over here in Mexico that was produced before the 1900s is protected. So because of that, we have to all kind of agree in the same thing. And we need to have specific permits. We have people that are supervising and giving licenses so that we can actually be doing restoration works.
Yes, Luna. Yeah, thank you.
Let me just intervene for something that is very important. Now, during the normal time of restoration and so on, I think almost every country has its own regulation and restrictions regarding how we can restore, what kind of materials we can use, what are the regulations that need to be followed to bring this building to rehabilitate and restore this building and so on. But unfortunately, for example, I'm going to talk about my country. During the war and during the bombing of this cultural heritage site, we are not prepared for that. We don't have any specific regulation that say what should we do if we have an emergency case or we have an emergency building that need to be supported and so on. And I want to clarify something that we had faced, for example, even before war, that people really, even if there's regulation or there is restriction regarding restoring their houses, they need to go back to live in their houses. I don't think that they will be interested in following this regulation because this will delay their return. So sometimes I think we need to face some cases and we need to facilitate these cases where things that need to be worked very fast to enable these people to go back to their houses. One of the cases that happened, not even the war, a fire that started in the old city of Damascus in one of the old souks. And we've been discussing what shall we do with this souk and how we can restore it and so on. But at the same time, in parallel, the merchants, they were restoring their shops and working on them. They don't really going to wait for the academic people and the specialist people to come and tell them what to do. And they're not going to follow this. Person need to eat. he need to work, need to support his family, he need to live inside the house or to work in the this shop. So I think we need to take and to, let's say, not gather information. We need to make it legal in a way or another to have this intervention, fast intervention, to allow people to go to their houses, maybe using, for example, material that are reversible. So in time, that when they have time, they can redo it as it should be done. This is a point of view that we are suffering from in the old city of Aleppo, because, for example, we have so many houses that is destroyed. We have almost something like 60% of the old houses and monuments in the old city, they are completely destroyed. They are on the ground. And the remaining parts, they are very fragile, because you know, when there's a bombing, the structure itself, even it stay standing, but it is fragile. So the if this has happened with the earthquake on the 2023, and the part of these buildings had collapsed. So you see, it's a little bit complicated, but we need to take two measures into consideration, not the building only, but the people also.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for this question, Mr. Sami, do you have anything, do you want to add anything?
I was just wondering about the regulations that they have in Mexico. Because in Pakistan, the regulations are essentially from 1904. And we've never moved on. We've been using British period regulations, and that creates a lot of problems. I've been trained in the Italian method, as you were talking about. But if I talk to anybody in the government service, they have no idea what I'm talking about, because they're using manuals from the last century. And it'd be very nice if one can get hands on the regulations so that one can build towards it.
Thank you so much.
Very briefly, in Mexico, we have the National Institute is the one that I was presenting, which is the one that I work for. And with that one, we have very strict guidelines. And I can send you the law that we have to abide by, and the internal one from this institution. So we as an institution are the ones that kind of follow through. And because we have some loops in Mexico, we always say what's not prohibited is technically permitted, which is not great, but that's how we do it. And because of that, that's within those loops, we manage to, as an institution, tell people a little bit of what to do and making sure that it kind of works out. But as Luna was saying as well, the main issue that we have as an institution is that we are not considering that people need to go back, whether it's to their houses, to their religious sites, their archaeological places. And that has been the main criticism that we have had as an institution.
Thank you so much. So I remember that we had a raised hand from Clara. Clara, would you like to ask your question?
A comment more than a question. There are a number of responses in the chat that look at international regulations and international instruments. How effective have they been in some of the crises that have been described? I've also seen a response saying it is part of change. You know, we really, this is heritage, it is change. But deliberate targeting is not change. How could the international organizations, cultural agencies, act differently in many of these cases, not only the recent case, previous cases as well? That's an important, maybe there might the panel might want to comment on that, or in the audience. The other thing is the kind of training from Italy or elsewhere is borrowed from the global north. What interventions or initiatives have been taken place is largely capacity building to create community schemes that are owned and run by communities in times of crisis. It seems to be it's always, oh, we're going to capacity build, we'll march in and we will train people up. It's a crisis over. Let's wait for the war to be over, rather than actually shouting from the rooftop to say the war is breaching everything, flouting every convention possible. Then to sit back quietly and then to come in after the war and say, hey, we're going to go capacity building, give us some money, grants coming from every angle. I think it's a very, very critical issues, especially in the context what we're seeing, what we've seen. Maybe the panel want to comment on that. If they don't want to, that's fine.
Thank you so much for your kind of comment or remark on this. Yeah, if anyone of the panel wants to talk or answer anything, or anyone else, please. So yeah, James, please.
Proposing just to clarify my comment on the change as part of heritage. I think sometimes we can get tied up with getting everything exactly right when we're doing the conservation. And I think there are times when we can't live with the ideal. I would certainly echo the comments that I've just heard, that direct comment isn't change. And it shouldn't be occurring. And I think it's, please don't interpret my comments as that. And I think what we're seeing with all of these things is what I was very moved with and I took a particular note of was in the refurbishment of the mosque, with the way that you actually chose to say, right, well, this material I have no record, so I'm making a judgment call on that. And that is part, good or for bad, whatever the opinion was, you made a judgment call. We also have got to remember that those judgment calls were made in the past as well. And just because the present day doesn't mean that those there. And it's part of the heritage of the building as the change. And I think that actually all of the remarkable work of the presentations, unfortunately, I only seen the second half because I was teaching for the first half, is just this remarkable resilience and actually the importance of cultural heritage to the recovery of the people. And I think that is something. And if we get tied up as conservationists on minor details, we sometimes miss the bigger picture. And I think that's a really important point. And I think the point that a representative right now can't even speak to us because they're in the middle of a war zone, and probably at this time is probably going around another bomb site trying to recover and trying to do things, I think just speaks of the resilience of this. I come from areas where we have been affected by terrorism for long periods of time. And I think that those buildings are not minor points of recovery. They become symbols that people build around. And I think that's got to be remembered. We talked about the psychological effects of warfare. Often the cultural heritage is actually a symbol of resilience in these areas. And so I think as building professionals, conservation professionals, sorry, I'm talking from an architectural point of view, we do sometimes get tied up on the detail and sometimes miss those bigger pictures. And I think that's a really interesting point that we are made. And it does make me question sometimes about we're so tied up with regulation, we miss those bigger points that's there. And I certainly wasn't, if my comment was interpreted by people that change is part of heritage, so be it. No, that wasn't what I meant at all. And I would just like to clarify that point.
Thank you, James. So I see a few hands raised. Yeah, I'm gonna call you based on the order I can see on my screen, but shortly after that, I want to get back to the two good questions that we have in our chat box. So, Nupur, I can see you first with the raised hand, please.
Thank you very much, Naz, and thank you, Naima, and all the speakers. This has been a very inspiring afternoon. I just wanted to follow up on the little Mentimeter you took, the quiz that you took from us, and seeing that this is the SDG space. We know that there is a lot of potential of taking these conversations into that larger sort of sustainability dialogue, policy dialogue, to bring culture as a really, really important, member on the table of conversation around the goals. And I do want us to think a little deeper there, because I feel what Luna said about the immediate needs of the community, we really need to address those. And then we need to put in processes and policies and other actions which are going to be medium and long term, create medium and long term impact, which is through this kind of group and, these kind of initiatives. So I just want to leave it to the group. I'll let the floor be open for more questions, and then if anyone wants to wrap up on this. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Geraldine, your hand was raised. Do you want to continue?
Really quickly, to what Clara was saying, I do think that unfortunately the team capacity building has been the response. I can only speak from disaster management that we have over here in Mexico, but it's mainly the issue that we in the country, we don't see maintenance or prevention, although we should. We don't really see it as something that we have to be doing. People don't want to be investing in that. The government don't want to be giving funding. So for us, that is very hard. But also at the same time, what we have done, fortunately, is that we had funds that were created only for natural disaster management, not just for heritage, but also for housing, for schools, for hospitals. But unfortunately, with the new government that we have had, those were taken away. So now we have to figure out in this new era how we are going to be doing this immediate response, because now we don't even have the money to be doing preventive work or anything like that.
Thank you. So, Naima, I saw your hand raised. Would you like to talk now, or can you give me a moment to ask some of the questions we have on the chat box? Thank you, because they are very interesting. So I'm gonna go quickly to Fakhri Sadat's question. She asked, with reference to Article 3, safeguarding of cultural property, 6 distinctive marking and 7 military measures of the 1954 EU Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict, as well as the Article 5 of its second protocol. What evidence-based indicators can be used to assess the extent to which preventive measures such as risk preparedness, emergency planning, and integration of cultural property protection into military structures have been operationalized in Iran prior to potential conflict scenarios? So to answer this question, unfortunately, we don't have Mr. Shervin here with us and although I'm from Iran, I don't have a proper knowledge at this stage to answer this, but yeah, I really appreciate, and I'm curious to know the answer to this too, myself. Is there anyone who wants to add something, who wants to answer it? Maybe someone who has information actually. Okay, so I'm just jumping to the second one. From Shireen Allen, we have this question that if crisis management depends on preparedness, resources, and rapid response, how can fairness be claimed in Palestine? and the Arab region when responses are shaped by political and funding pressures, and when evidence-based voices are excluded, especially when this directly affects the protection of cultural rights. Again,
let me propose that Shireen itself will answer this question. Can you answer it, Shireen?
yes. I mean, it would be nice to hear your own opinion on that.
Shireen was the president of ICOMOS Palestine. So
I don't see Shireen.
no,
Yes,
I
she's
see her.
here. Yes, she is here.
Shireen,
Shireen, do you have any?
Thank you for this webinar and for all the speakers and organizers. Actually, I just ask it because I have experience in documentation and monitoring the evidence regarding the genocide and what's happening still until now in Palestine. And I see, I think still this problem that I asked it's a huge question about the hidden agendas, okay, and the political situation, if it's affected the protection of cultural heritage, especially in Palestine and in all the regions or in the Arab regions, exactly. And I have another questions. Why the responses from humanitarian institutions was faster than the responses from cultural institutions, and how can the widening gap between the early humanitarian recognition and the silence or delay of cultural institutions? And I can told about I told about the systematic exclusion of this who document evidence and produce fact-based reporting as cultural institutions ask it. All the time they ask it for evidence, they ask it for reporting. They don't want the information from social media. Okay, we can monitor and we prepare reports, and we will not talk by political issues. We can talk about cultural heritage, but what's the results? Okay, and what is the responses? Okay, we recognize that preparedness, resources, rapid response, it's important, but also where is the fairness and coherence in politically sensitive, especially in Palestine and in Arab region? And I call the Arab region members, without a stronger Arab engagement, there is a growing risk that participation in such institutions like ICOMOS and UNESCO and others become concentrated by hidden political and funding agendas, rather than guided by fairness and independence.
Thank you, Shireen. We are a little bit behind from the time. So if anyone has anything to do, please feel free to leave if you want. But I remember that Naima also had a raised hand. If you have anything, if anyone else has anything to say or ask, you are more than welcome. Otherwise, I like to also, I mean, after that, I like to give the floor back to Andres.
I don't want to be long on the audience, whom I thank for this attendance and also for the engagement with the presentations that have been delivered. I saw the comment/question of Donovan, which I second, regarding, but some of the panelists replied more or less about it. what are the practices in the different countries. We can take a couple of minutes maybe to go beyond the panelists and learn from each other what are the immediate procedures that are implemented in countries in immediate response to catastrophes or to conflicts. This is my first reflection. Please feel free to answer. The second reflection, whether during the presentations or during this very interesting discussion, I was always several times the term of people and the local community and the very community that is affected and to whom and with whom and whom deals with these heritage sites immediately are the first respondents all the time. And I think they have been the first respondents even before all of us we are on this planet, because it is a knowledge and skills and techniques that have been developed and inherited from generation to generation, because unfortunately wars and conflicts and catastrophes are always have been always with us, and sometimes because of us. But my reflection was how us, as the level of ICOMOS or people who work with heritage, how can we learn from these communities their agility in addressing, in responding, and in coming back to roughly an everyday life immediately. We tend to reflect and to document and to decide, and the time is running, as Luna said. So these were my two reflections. Thank you very much.
If I may, so Clara had pointed out something, which was she's talking about these international documents. Apart from the funding and the training issues that she was pointing out, I was recently on a panel talk with some people former people from the World Heritage Center, and we were having the same conversation. And my answer was, in the absence of actually what Shireen was saying about fairness and about the community, etc. The documents do come in handy when the frameworks are really weak, and when you have a lot of politicization in the system, and when you have people who are maybe not the best people to deal with things, but they're just in administrative positions, and they have control. That's where regulations do come in handy, where one can fall back on it and push back on, potentially bad decisions. There are shortcomings with the documents, as we all know about the Global South and the East, and we all deal with heritage in different ways. We can modify and develop and work on these things over time, but the base documents do come in handy. Even though the Eurocentric, it's a little weapon that one can use against authorities when the authority is doing problematic things.
Thanks so much. Yes, Luna. Yeah.
I would like to share with you an experience in the old city of Aleppo, in one of the old neighborhoods. As you know, we had the Assad regime has fallen at the end of 2024, and there was this chaos between the new government that are trying to handle the things, and the old people who want to work. So people were left, people who wanted to go back to their houses, and in the old city of Aleppo. they had to wait until getting the permits, or people or the government had money to solve their problems, so on. So one of the ladies who live in these old houses, she came up with an initiative to fix the sewage, the sewage lines inside this neighborhood. And she gathered all these neighbors, and they managed to work on fixing this and fix the road so they can go back to their houses easily, and they can use these houses easily. So from this experience, for example, the neighborhoods that are still waiting for the government to intervene, and there's not enough money, you need to wait for the budget to be announced, and so on, all these complications issue, and there's always priorities for this part on that part, and so on. My point of view is very important, and this is something that I really concentrate on when I'm working with cultural heritage, not in the private sector as architect and restorer, but also as a person who works with the people for 30 years now. I'm a volunteer in several associations. I started with Friends of Damascus Association, which its main role was to protect the city of Damascus. I think raising awareness about cultural heritage and about the materials of construction and about the importance of this material and how we can deal with it and facilitate the manufacturing of these traditional materials and finding laborers to do this will really help people when they had a problem with their houses, and especially during the crisis and after bombardment due to the war. It will facilitate that these people, they are aware that using this material is much better for at all levels, let's say, even for health, even for the sake of their lives, even for everything. It's for everything. So raising awareness came first, and also during during the crisis that has been happening in Syria, I was responsible for an initiative called Sketch for Syria. And what we discovered from the sketchbooks that we gathered that talks about how would you want to see Syria after this war. And you can imagine that 65% of people, they did draw cultural heritage inside this. It wasn't related directly to cultural heritage. It was about architecture. It's about what do you want to see from New Syria. And people, they are attached to cultural heritage. It is their identity, and they do feel it. And, we found out that the targeting of symbols of each cities was happening. They were targeting this link between human and its city, its heritage, its symbol of living. So when one of the interventions said that, this cracking of the person itself cracking his attachment is very clear when we see how during the wars they are targeting symbols of life and living heritage. Thank you. Sorry for being late for the delay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Andres, would you like to wrap up the session?
Yeah.
I would like to thank everyone for their contributions and this great session.
Thank you.
It wouldn't be possible without of you all. Yeah. Go.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much. I'll try to be very laconic. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you, all our speakers, our beautiful moderator. Thank you, Naima. Thank you, all participants, for your attention, for your questions, for your comments, for your discussions. Thank you so much. I guess that our discussions has shown quite clearly today that living heritage is not only something to be protected after a crisis. It's actually a vital source of, really a vital source of resilience, identity, knowledge, and community during crisis itself, and even before the crisis, in order to be prepared for the crisis. And sincere thanks for all who contributed to the chat and to the Mentimeter. And please know that our Mentimeter poll will remain active also after our webinar, so you will still have a chance to vote on possible topics for the triennial plan, and also indicate your email for our newsletter, which will be issued, and the new number of the newsletter will be active in June. Naz, would you please share maybe one more time the result of the Mentimeter? So, Naz, would you comment it briefly? Okay, United Kingdom first. So regarding, Naz, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we have a word pattern, and it seems that most of the people who have joined us today are based in Europe, which is very nice. And then we have some people from Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Mexico, Bulgaria, which is quite diverse and very much, I think, and also United States, which I think, considering the time limitations that we have and how the time zones, I mean, different time zones that we have, it's brilliant to see this many people here. And for the next question, about the best topic choice for the ICOMOS triennial strategic plan, it seems that so far the majority have agreed on the 10th option, the Heritage in Post 2030 Agenda, operationalizing the cultural goal. Then we have the number 1, heritage ecosystems, integrating biodiversity and climate action to manage heritage sites as interconnected natural cultural systems. And in equal position, we have heritage as a lifeline beyond protection to functional resilience and community survival in global crisis. Oh, we have also another one in this. Adaptive urban heritage, integrating living heritage and vernacular building upgrades into urban policies for resilient low-carbon cities. And finally, community-led empowerment, strengthening community engagement and traditional knowledge to build resilience against adverse weather and environment. For the last slide, rest assured that your answers are private, and I will check them, and we will add you to our newsletter. And if you have again any contributions, please don't forget.
Until mid-May, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Please provide your comments, your ideas, your articles, everything to the email address provided. Okay, colleagues. So thank you very, very much. And let's stay connected in person or through social media or through emails. In any way, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You.
It was wonderful.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm Şevin Mazami Gudarzi, Research Fellow at the Center for Historic Fabrics Studies of the Azad Islamic University. First, I would like to thank ICOMOS for providing me with the opportunity to participate in this meeting. I also apologize in advance for not being able to attend this meeting online and for having to present my remarks in the form of a video. As my time is limited, in this presentation, I will provide you with an overview of the measures and the plans of the Iranian Ministry of Cultural Heritage, Tourism and Handicrafts regarding the historical sites damaged during this war. And then I will focus on some of the emergency measures taken and future plans and future needs. And I will concentrate only on 3 World Heritage sites that have suffered the most damage during this war. As you see, over 1 million historical buildings have been identified in Iran. 35,000 of them have been inscribed on the national inventory. There are more than 1,000 museums in Iran, and half of them belongs to the Iranian Ministry of Cultural Heritage. Up to 2025, 28 sites have been inscribed on the World Heritage List of UNESCO. The war began on 28th of February and ended in the 8th of April 2026. 132 cultural properties have been directly or indirectly damaged by the airstrikes during the war. Here you can see the number of damaged properties in each province. The most of them are located in Tehran. Now on this slide you can see the types of damaged properties: 111 buildings mostly in Tehran, 9 buildings belonging to the War Heritage in Khuzestan province, 15 museums, and the National Railway System, which has been also inscribed on the World Heritage List. As you see, out of 132 structures, 3 properties have been severely damaged by the airstrikes, which are World Heritage sites. And the table for each of the 3 properties, you can see their identification, inscription details, incident analysis, and the damage origin. For example, is it from a blast wave, a secondary fire, debris, shrapnel, or sonic wave? Or where is the exact location of the damage? Is it in the property or in the buffer zone? Table 5 is shown in 2 slides, which is about emergency needs and initial protective measures for these sites. For example, for Golestan Palace, roof covering of openings, specialized conservation of decorations and attachments are among the emergency needs. And what have been done so far, you can see the initial protective measures. Covering of damaged roof tiles, cover openings, conservation actions, utility actions. In the rest of the table 5, you can see the same needs and primary actions for Meydan Imam or the Imam Square. For example, installing standard safe scaffolds as emergency needs, or installing water barriers throughout the area as a primary protective measure. Now we focus on Golestan Palace. The blue line shows the buffer zone, the red line, the property. The 2 airstrikes are within the buffer zone, as you can see. The distance of the impact points are from 50 to 10 meters to the property. The police station was one of the oldest ones in the old fabric of Tehran and was inscribed on the national inventory. From this angle, you see the distance of the second impact point, which is the judiciary building dedicated to the governmental employees. The distance is less than 15 meters. In the 4 following slides, you can see photos from the garden, the mirror hall, and the royal court to receive the public audience by the Shah, debris of mirrors and plaster and woodworks, administrative sections, and ticket services. Here are some of the primary emergency measures taken in Golestan Palace. For example, documentation through photography and video recordings, pathology and preparing the preliminary reports, conducting protective measures, including cleaning the garden, especially the scattered glass pieces, changing some of the electrical machines and their immunization, covering the site walls and fences with canvas to prevent the public view and access. This photo shows the impact point, which is behind the Imam Square. This slide shows the locations of Impact Point, Imam Square, and Chelmsford Palace. The distance between the impact point with Imam Square is about 350 meters. Ali Qaboos building in Imam Square has been severely damaged. You can see the damages including the broken doors and windows, holes in the ceiling, and wall cracks. You know, the Blue Shield banner has been laid on the roof of the Ali Qaboos building before the war. Now in this slide, you can see some of the emergency measures taken for Ali Qaboos building right after the strike. Documentation, installing water barriers throughout the area, including canvas or plastic coverings, restricting public access to the damaged zones, fire safety measures, studying the use of nanomaterials to increase fire resistance of wooden elements, using adhesive tapes on glasses of the windows and doors, removal of debris, stabilization of the weak points. Now the third and the last case study, Chelmsford Palace. As you can see in the picture, there is a Blue Shield banner in the garden of the palace laid down before the war. This slide shows the locations of Impact Point and Chelmsford Palace. The distance between the Impact Point with Chelmsford is less than 100 meters. Please see the short dark blue arrow in the images. In the two following slides, you can see the damages incurred into the main hall of the palace, the plasterworks, tiles, mughannas, walls, and windows. And you see this table shows the assessment of damages incurred into the Chelmsford Palace and many other information, such as date of inscription, date of airstrike, level of destruction, urgent needs, and primary measures done for the site. In the bottom of the table, you can see the measures done for removal of the danger, preparation of the restoration plan, estimation of cost of preparation of plan, temporary coverings, and protective plaster works as the measures done for it. This slide shows some of the primary measures, such as pasting adhesive tapes on the glasses and covering up places with nylon sheets. Here they are stabilizing the wooden door of the main gate to the garden as a preventive measure. After the airstrike, a team of university professors from the Isfahan Art University conducted a surface search for small fragments of decorative objects scattered across the porch. As you know, fisheye technology is used for ultra-wide photography as a documentation tool. While it offers certain advantages, it also has some drawbacks, which I will discuss in the next slide. Here I provided some of the pros and cons of fisheye photography. As for pros, this technology is suitable for small spaces, faster than DSLR cameras, faster rendering using two sensors simultaneously, financially cheaper equipment, and it's not good for macrophotography, such as taking accurate photos of wall cracks. In my last slide, I will show you some of the primary emergency measures done for Chelmsford Palace, for example, preparation of restoration plan, damage assessment and plan preparation, documentary photos and video recordings, using fisheye technology for ultra-wide photos, estimation of the cost of preparation of plans, using adhesive tapes on glass of windows and doors, removal of debris, covering of all doors and windows with nylon sheets, monitoring, etc. Thank you for having me in this discussion panel, and thank you for your patience. I would also to thank my friend Faramaz Elahi for producing this video. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.